Welcome to Cloudscapes, your go-to podcast for all things cloud native. Our aim here is to keep it real and have down-to-earth chats about the cloud to also help you learn something new and be inspired on your cloud journey.
Welcome to Cloudscapes from UpCloud. Every episode will have a different guest and focus, but to kick things off, this first one is all about getting to know your hosts before we start bringing on guests. We're excited to get started and hope you enjoy the journey with us. Let's dive in.
I'm Teppo Suominen, your host and a team coach here at UpCloud. And with me here is my wonderful co-host, Jannika Jokinen, as always, a senior account executive at UpCloud. And this time around, it's just us. So Hello and welcome, Jannika. So nice to have you here.
Likewise. Yeah, it's a bit different today.
Yeah, meet the hosts is basically the topic.
So maybe we can dig a bit deeper into what's your role actually. Of course, team coach, but what that actually means.
Yes, team coach, as everybody knows, means nothing as a title or anything. Here at UpCloud, what it means is we are the engineering managers of our engineering teams. We're also in charge of the work management and the processes and the agile work management of the teams themselves as well. So we try to make sure our engineering teams are able to do their work, unblocking, helping with planning, making sure that their work progresses the best possible way, and then of course helping the individuals with the direction they want to go with learning new things, what they need to do to be successful at their jobs. And for me personally, I also help a lot with just overall process management and process development at the engineering function here. So I deal a lot with how we work and how we should work in the future.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a quite versatile role, and weeks are probably quite different from each other.
Yes. Also multiple teams, so need to kind of keep in, which is a good thing as well, because a lot of our work is interlinked between the teams. So being able to manage the teams as they when you see multiple teams working, you can kind of know what things will affect the other teams as well. So, but yeah, definitely never in my time here have I had two completely similar weeks. So quite a lot to do and handle. But let's turn around then for you. What's your role here at UpCloud as senior account executive? What do you do?
Yeah, so I work at the customer interface. So technically, most of my time is spent with our customers, mainly with new customers. So I'm mostly responsible of getting new customers on board from Nordics, especially from Finland and Sweden. But of course, I work with customers outside of Nordic region as well. But that's maybe my core knowledge area, so to say, how businesses in the Nordics operate and what kind of challenges they have in the cloud industry. And of course, then there is quite a lot of different aspects to the role. It's not only about, giving a price to a customer and being like, okay, that's how much it costs. It's a lot about actually being a trusted advisor and helping them navigating to their business goals.
Solving the actual customer problem instead of just selling what we've got.
Exactly. But of course, I'm not doing that alone. I collaborate together with our internal teams and tech teams to actually then find the best solutions for the customer use case. But of course, that also affects to the pricing part. So it's also something that I take as part of my role, but that's not unlimited, as sometimes you see these kind of customer-facing roles more like you're just telling people that this is how much it costs. It's so much more about educating and guiding the customers, because sometimes, especially when we work with cloud, it's, things that you need to educate the customer about that. Okay, this is how other customers are solving these kind of problems.
Is
this something that you are experiencing and so forth? But yes, in short, I help our customers to use UpCloud to their business needs.
Benefits. All right. Bit of a follow-up, actually. You mentioned you're focused in the Nordics and especially Finland, Sweden regions. We've had a few chats with other guests here in the podcast about this as well. But cloud is always a global market.
Yes.
You can utilize it anywhere. But is there difference between the customer needs and the customer problems they are facing in different markets? How do you see that?
Actually, quite interesting because, of course, if we think about markets close to home, like Finland for us or Sweden, they are quite advanced when it comes to compliance and data residency. And, how do you actually make sure that, you comply with the European laws? And that's usually coming from the end customers. So then, of course, the companies who operate in these markets are usually a bit more compliance and regulations driven. And that might then affect the strategy that they take on cloud infrastructure as well. But then if we go to other markets, for example, I have customers from UK that, of course, they might still care about the data residency and compliance, but the driving factor for them might be that how can we actually get more optimized setup for our infrastructure?
Right.
Or how can we maybe save on costs or get better transparency into the cost? So, of course, there is a little bit of different factors when you think about regions, but then also I would say more when you think about industries.
All right.
So especially in my expertise, I work a lot with regulated companies. So companies who work in health tech,
fintech,
telecommunications, and so forth. So it's, of course, then a lot to do with compliance and regulations, but definitely something that you see a little bit of, differences based on the industry and the market.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yes. And then if we think about, I think when I heard about your, role, it's a lot of different things and definitely a versatile role. But if you think about then the excitement at your work, what excites you actually the most about working at UpCloud?
Definitely the people. We have some of the most talented people in the industry working at some of the most interesting problems of the industry. When you think about cloud industry, a lot of times when a company says they're working with or on the cloud, they are they're the guys that you interface with, our customers who are building on top of the cloud infrastructure. And that's not an easy feat. I'm not putting these people down. They're creating the services that their end customers need on top of the cloud, which is hard in and of itself. But when you step back and look at what we at UpCloud do, we work at the core stack of the cloud infrastructure, creating something that can then be utilized at a moment's notice from anywhere, in any situation, to solve almost any kind of an issue. And it includes a lot of quite deep tech, like we're working with core components of networking, storages, computing, and then on top of that, we've got all of the virtual machine systems, and we need to be aware of how those work as well, and how we can utilize those to provide the best possible cloud service for our customers. So it's very complex, very multi-layered and multifaceted issues and problems that we are solving with an extremely talented group of engineers. Like I was told before I started UpCloud that we've got some of the best engineers in the business, and everybody always says they've got the best engineers in the business. All right, we probably have talented people. Companies usually do. That's how they thrive.
Fair.
But then I joined and I got to meet my teams, and I was like, we really do have some of the best people in the business. Like, we've got so talented individuals working on problems that you just don't get to solve elsewhere. And working with that group, solving those problems is it's really cool.
Yeah, and I must echo that. And I think it's quite cool that if, indeed you think about cloud, most often the reaction that we might get from someone is that, oh, but you're just reselling someone. And it's like, no. Actually, we are building our own tech. And I think
there's no Amazon warehouse at the back.
It's just UpCloud and UpCloud code and stack.
Exactly.
So, and especially if you think about that, it's coming from Finland, that we can actually create something so meaningful for every business, because more or less every business needs infrastructure to run their applications or services or technically anything.
Exactly.
So I think it's pretty cool that, small country like Finland can bring up something like this to the market.
Yeah.
So
and I only mention, of course, like our part, which is the tech.
Yeah.
But you mentioned infrastructure, which is a really good point, because we actually have the infrastructure as well and the people running and operating that as well. So it's not someone else's infrastructure either that we just run the code on top of. That's ours as well, and we have to know and be able to work on top of it. So it's very cool, complex stack that we get to work with. All right. Then on your side, if we move up a bit higher on the abstraction layer, what excites you most about the cloud industry that we are now then operating in?
Well, I think it's really complex, but in a good way. So there is, of course, different problems that you're solving every day. So, of course, there is things that are similar. There are challenges that are similar, but there's still, a different way to go around those. And I find that quite fascinating. And then, of course, if you think about cloud business 10 years ago when it was mainly started, and think about it now, it's so different. And then if you think about how it's constantly changing and evolving and allowing businesses to do things differently, I think it's quite interesting journey to be on. And also, if you think about the fact from the customer work perspective, it's a lot about consulting, a lot about actually understanding how the technology can enable businesses to achieve their business goals.
Exactly.
So, of course, I've been also in different types of industries selling software, which is also interesting. But from that perspective, it's, in my opinion, not as wide as a problem and solution when you think about, cloud. So I think that's pretty interesting in my books as well, compared to maybe a bit more when you move up the stack to sell software products.
We actually have in the episodes coming after this one a few conversations about this exact topic, how companies moving to the cloud have to understand, or they need someone who can help them understand how to run their stuff on top of cloud, because it's not just a lift and shift, take whatever you're running in the cellar, move it on top of the cloud, now it works. You have to understand how the cloud works and then how your stuff works on top of that, which makes the cloud market, like you said, really an exciting place to be.
Yeah, and I think also if you think about from the perspective that you get to actually help customers transform their businesses with utilizing the best technology, that they can then provide the best possible software or service to their end customers.
Yeah.
So I think if you think about how many customers you can help to then achieve better results to their end customers, I think it's quite cool.
Definitely, yeah.
But then if we think about your perspective again, and of course we talked a little bit about UpCloud and how do we actually build our own tech and so forth. But if you think about something about UpCloud that people might know but should, what would it be?
All right, something people might not know. The oldest UpCloud T-shirt that exists has it's a full frontal print, like very 2011 style, but it has our IOPS value. That's how many reads and writes you can do on a storage. And it's still the best in the market. It was the best in the market then, and I believe it's still up there. Everybody else has been catching up for the last 15 years. And for example, like NVMe is definitely changing the market there. But we are still very much performant, especially everywhere on the stack, but especially on the storage side, which we've made ourselves. We're very proud of that code. It's faster than almost anything else that you can get on cloud. And a lot of times in the modern environment, like we've reached the point where it doesn't matter that much. You have in all cloud services a fast enough solution. So it's not so much about the speed. But I still think it's one of those things that's really cool that we solved here at UpCloud like 15 years back in a way that is still beating the competition. And that's like the level of expertise that you're looking at.
Yeah, that's actually, I didn't know about the t-shirt, but now I know it. Now I also know.
I've only seen it like once. There's, I think there was a print of like 50 of them. So they're a true collector's item.
They're
I
like
don't have
rare.
one.
If you have one, you are special.
Yeah, I don't have one. I'm sad about that.
Yeah.
All right. Then looking from the past into the future, how do you see the cloud industry evolving in the next 5 years? We've asked this from a lot of our guests as well, but like, what's your view?
Well, I've been now in the direct cloud business for around 3 years. And I've already seen during that time the transition towards more multi-cloud type of approach and how companies are actually evaluating different alternatives to their current setup. And I do think that it's going to continue to become even stronger. So companies are actually, evaluating the tech in a different perspective, because I feel before there was a lot of money and a lot of, hype around tech. People were just buying tech because it was cool and everyone was buying. And I was like, it was a lot of that kind of behavior in the market, at least I feel. But now every tech decision needs to be more tied to the business needs and business challenges and business objectives.
There's not that much loose cash going around as there was 5 years ago, for sure.
Exactly. So I feel when we go even forward, that's something that companies are starting to investigate even more. So how can we actually take our current technology and make it work the best way? And then that, of course, usually means that, okay, do we need to look for alternatives? And if yes, to what kind of use cases? And then for that, I do think that the multi-cloud approach is here to stay for sure.
I maybe personally would add the hybrid tenancy to that as well. Of course, I would say multi-cloud is the usual one that we'll be seeing more because hybrid isn't necessary for most.
Yes.
But for those that it is, that's definitely, and it's kind of the same thing, like you're hosting in multiple places. It's just not two distinct cloud providers. One of the providers is a physical location. Well, of course, the cloud providers are at the end of the day a physical location as well, but that's besides the point.
No, I've been seeing that if we think about the trends in the customer segment as well, that especially when you can utilize those kind of models, it usually brings you quite good cost performance ratios and those kind of things. So then definitely something that is probably going to be thought of more when, companies are thinking that, okay, how do we actually operate and how do we, optimize our operational costs and those kind of things going forward.
And looking at it from the compliance side as well, like data tenancy and those things are a lot easier to manage when you are able to pick and choose the providers that fit your needs for each situation. So
exactly.
All right.
And if we think about the upcoming episodes, as we mentioned, we've been recording a few already.
Yeah.
So then, from your side, what is the one topic that you are especially excited to cover?
This is a hard pick because I think like all of our guests that we have or what we've had, but we will have on the show are excellent. All of the conversations we've had have been enlightening. I feel that I've learned something new, I think, every round. And just like really great conversations overall. But I do need to pick. So security will be my number one pick. We've had 2 guests on that topic. And this comes from my personal background. I come from IT management, IT security background, among other things, but that's one of the things I've done in the past. And security has always, in my opinion, been a very important topic that easily gets overlooked. And especially in a cloud setup, it's easy to think that you're getting the cloud from someone, they're taking care of the security. And especially, let's say, some years back, this was very much the view. Nowadays, luckily, a lot of companies are better with it. They're learning that you need to be on top of it. You don't have as many of the millions of WordPress machines have, again, been pawned and are being used as a botnet somewhere sorts of news. These things do still happen all the time, but people are more aware of it. And that means that there's also more need for an understanding of the security landscape. At the same time, security is something, it's not a solved problem. It can never be a solved problem. When you plug one hole, the attackers find another or create another. So it's a constant rope pull on who's winning. And in that way, the security topics have been really interesting in just shedding light on how you should view your security in the cloud and look at the whole topic of cybersecurity in general.
Yeah, and I think we just covered the trends a bit and how the upcoming years will look like. And I think if we actually think about the security and take the aspect of where companies are hosting their data, and I think we see it more and more that companies are actually starting to think that, okay, if all of our customers are in a specific country and our closest data center is in another country, what happens in a situation when there is a crisis happening or those kind of more risk mitigations.
Actual physical risks of that situation as well, for sure.
I don't think not too many people actually even really thought about it. But now, of course, due to unfortunate reasons, people are more aware of those. So
It is for sure. And data tenancy is actually an interesting thing that you don't usually think of as part of the security stack.
Exactly.
But it is, especially with the cloud, it is part of what you need to consider as part of the security landscape of things.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I gave my view on what I'm really looking for, but on a more general level, what can our listeners expect from the podcast from your point of view?
Great conversations, first of all. And I feel different types of companies and people from different type of backgrounds sharing their stories. And I think that's quite interesting because even if you are working in a specific field, you might still learn something from someone who is experienced in another field.
Yeah.
So definitely something to take on from the coming episodes, that we have really talented people sharing their knowledge in a very easy to understand way.
That's actually a really good point. Like, don't skip episodes even if you're not an expert on the subject, because I think everybody that we've had as a guest has been really good at bringing it quite close to the grassroots level so that it's understandable and interesting.
Exactly. And then, we already recorded a few episodes as we've been going over it. Yes. But is there a moment or something funny or a story from those you could share?
Our first recording that we did with Haley HR, I believe, we did it remotely, but they unfortunately couldn't join us here. And that was our first recording and our first remote recording. And so we had a few technical hiccups with the remote setup here in the studio. The recording went perfectly, but unfortunately our camera from which they could see us didn't work perfectly. And from time to time, they could see nothing. From time to time, they could see our technician. And we just had all of these small technical hiccup moments. But luckily, our guests were wonderful, and we just had a good time about it. We had a bit of a laugh and managed to get a very good episode out of that one as well.
I think it's funny when you think about what actually happened, and then you now see the end result.
Yeah.
You're like, how are these the same?
Yeah, like you couldn't tell from the end result at all.
Exactly. But yeah, I do remember that one as well, and we had a good laugh.
Yeah, but that one was definitely something that like stuck to the mind, and really a funny one. All right. In every episode, wrapping up, we do a set of short questions, 4 fast questions that you can answer in a few words or a sentence. You don't need to think too much, just whatever is on the top of your mind. Usually our guest, first of all, doesn't know this beforehand and just gets all of the 4 on the spot. We've had a bit of practice with these, so we might have answers already in the pocket. And we also won't be answering all 4. We'll do the same to and fro here, but let's get started with our first 4.
That's good.
So, Jannika, what is the cloud trend you see currently emerging in Europe that interests you the most?
I would say it's the emphasis on the compliance and data residency. I think that is something that I see quite a lot, and I think it spins interesting conversations with people. So I would need to say that.
All right. It's definitely something I think we will see more this year and going forward.
For sure.
And very much, I would say, Europe is at the forefront. It will become a thing probably elsewhere in a few years' time as well, but we are at the spear tip of this. Thank you.
So then, on to you. When you're not navigating the cloud, what would you say is your favorite place on Earth?
It's an onsen ryokan in the Japanese mountains called Takimiya. It's at the top of a winding road. It's one of the highest inns in the whole of Japan. It's like 1,300 meters or something. But it's a very remote road, only open in the summers because they can't keep the road open during winters. The most beautiful place you'll ever see, and absolutely wonderful visit.
Sounds pretty cool.
It's definitely worth a spin if you're ever down that road. All right. What's the one book, movie, or experience that had a great impact on you?
I like to think that one thing that has had a great impact is living abroad.
All right.
Because it's something that might seem that, okay, you just move somewhere, it's all fun and nice and easy, but you actually need to think about quite a lot. How do you do normal everyday things when you're in a completely new environment on your own without your support network?
Yeah.
So I would probably answer that.
Okay. How much do small cultural changes flip you after a few days? Like, does the flip in your mind or?
Not really sure if I understood the question.
Because for example, like the placement of washing machines. Because in Finland, we've got the dishwasher in the kitchen and the clothes washer in a separate room. And in the UK, they've usually got both of those in separate room, or in the kitchen. So like these sorts of small things.
I think
does that get to you?
No, I think you get quite used to it. I think it's mainly the how everything else operates. Like for example, here I know a lot of people are always complaining about vero, taxes and everything. Is oh my god, it's so difficult. But I'm like, I'm actually quite happy with it. It works actually really well.
Yes, the Finnish tax authority is quite good with their technical solutions compared to anywhere else I've seen, actually.
So usually it's those kind of headaches. I'm happy with having my washing machine in kitchen. I don't care.
So it's the larger issues that get you. All right.
Okay, so then the last thing from our conversation today, what do you wish that people would take away from this conversation today?
If I was a bit smarter, I would have prepared for this one. This is a good question. Normally, it comes down to what we've what the episode is about, but this has kind of been an intro. But, what should I pick? Maybe just like listen to the other episodes, because we've got so interesting guests, so interesting topics there that you'll be missing out if you don't dive in. So that's definitely the one thing to get from this conversation, that we've got 8 episodes or somewhere around there canned now, and they're all great. So just listen to the season.
Great hosts, obviously.
Of course.
And even better guests.
Even better guests, for sure.
Definitely. I would pick that as well.
All right. Well, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you, Jannika, so much for having the chat. I'll not do my normal distillation because it was more of an open conversation. But welcome to Cloudscapes. Do listen to all of the episodes, learn more about how to navigate the cloud, what the problems are, and how to solve them with our esteemed guests here. And we'll see you around on the rest of the episodes.